It's 6. There are one or two that we hope might attend. We haven't got some apologies from, but it's 6:30, so we need to start. Welcome to our first formal meeting with Policy Development Committee for this council year. And welcome to members and officers. It's nearly as many officers as members. That's why. Right. Before I go on to item 1, I've had a request, and I think it probably is a good idea that we please move item 9 to the beginning of the agenda. Is everyone happy, or is there anyone that has an issue with that? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Lovely. So first is apologies, please, Kelly.
Yes, Chair, I have apologies from councillors Hunt and Knight.
Thank you very much. Item 2.
Just on apologies, can I make a half apology? Because I have,
Half of you going and
I have a parish council meeting, I'm going to try and get to the last hour of it, so I'll leave it better. Can we keep the top half? Because
I'm sorry about that. Yes, that's fine. But now I've got a major apology. I should have read all this out to you, which I'm going to have to do now. So I've done the welcome bit. Just a reminder, please, to switch your mobile phones to silent. It says there are members of the public and press attending, but I'm pretty sure there aren't. The meeting is being recorded and will be available in due course on the council's YouTube channel. A reminder for councillors, to ensure that those attending virtually and in person can hear the proceedings, and for the recording to capture the entire meeting. Please ensure that you project your voice and speak clearly. B, please remember it is a formal meeting and therefore do not refer to each other by first names. C, there is no fire alarm planned. Therefore, if the fire alarm sounds, officers will direct you to the nearest exit from the meeting room onto the car park. Thank you for that. Item 2 is to approve as correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of February, which I believe has been forwarded out to members. Obviously, it was a different committee, so I'm not quite sure where we stand.
I'll move the minutes.
Thank you.
I'll send it, I'll do.
Thank you, Liz. All in favour, please show. Abstentions or against?
I
Abstentions.
wasn't present, so I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you. I have nothing under item 3 to bring forward of any urgency. Item 4, any declarations of interest, please?
I've received none, Chairman.
Any to bring up tonight, members? No? More officers come back. Thank you. To agree the agenda between Part A and Part B, there's no Part B. So we now go swiftly on to item 9, which is to consider the work programme. My very able Vice Chairman.
You let me to introduce this.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Yeah. When this committee started after the elections with a whole new bunch of councillors on it, well, nearly a whole new bunch, I mean, Liz was on the last one. Sorry, Councillor Butler was on the last one. It was obvious that the work programme created by the previous committee may or may not be what wanted to be achieved by this committee. So rather than just roll it forward and see what happened, we thought it'd be best to have, rather than a formal meeting on our first scheduled date, to have an informal meeting to revisit and review the work programme, which we did. And it was quite clear at that stage that looking at the constitution, this committee's got kind of 2 main roles. One is to assist the council as a whole in its budget and policies within the budgetary framework, which is generally achieved through the cycle of reports presented by officers that are already on the work committee and that you can see already on there. But as well as that, there's a focus on external affairs will have an impact on the council or its citizens. So during the informal meeting, councillors sort of brainstormed the areas that we thought would be best addressed as much as we can to try and help the citizens of North Devon. And we came up with about a dozen areas. Now, having said that, because of the number of meetings we have, the work will go into these activities. There's about 3 years of work there. So during the discussions, we can't, even though there's like 9 or 10 or 11 items on there, we focused on the first 3 to be hopefully achieved during this financial year. And those 3 were dentistry, the state of water in the area, and the impact on the future of agriculture in North Devon, and the impact on a variety of policies. Now, having said that, doesn't mean that the council is going to be able to deliver change in all those areas, because we don't employ a lot of dentists already, but it will certainly, at the very least, be able to influence, hopefully, and lobby the appropriate bodies to try and achieve that. So, but I think what might be useful is if we formally adopted as a committee that those 3 areas would be the first 3 we addressed, and that in doing that we collectively created a scoping paper to show what we're trying to achieve, and that Councillor Jones has already done a draft of in 2 of the 3 areas that we're hoping to achieve. How does that sound? What did I miss out?
David,
I'm not bothered which one we choose, but I don't remember saying we were going to do the top 3. Like, who chose the top 3?
But we did collectively. I mean, informally collectively.
I thought there was a list, you put a list of us.
Yeah.
But I don't think we actually decided what the 3 were. But if we did, I missed it.
I thought we had, yeah. Those 5 definitely standing out, for sure.
Was there a vote taken on that?
Well, it was informal, it's an informal meeting, so we wouldn't vote.
But that's what we need to do now, isn't it? Formalise. Those ideas we want to introduce.
I do remember.
No, I don't. I must say, I don't remember.
It's a bit strange.
I thought we went away with all 12.
Yeah, I don't remember it being narrowed down to 3. But if you 2 say it definitely happened, then it definitely happened.
Sure, I mean,
I must have missed it.
yeah,
I mean,
Although I might think that, to be honest, the empty homes thing, possibly would be a little bit less work, less lobbying, so we might be able to pick 4. I think that might be quite an important side topic, and we'll probably find that, John, am I allowed to call you John, or is it Mr. Triggs? Some tricks. Not councillor like the last councillor, so has probably done a lot of work on empty homes already, so it might be just a case of pulling that information back out and just actioning it.
The members obviously saw, we sent around a copy of the work that's been done in these areas already, so I suppose that's it's important to use that as sort of a base. That's what we've got. It's already been worked on through the programs. It's then a case of, obviously, I think the list you have, which you work through, obviously it's making sure you're still prioritising which ones you want to look at. I think as Councillor Between says, you're not going to get all the 10 done in the first year. You've got a 4-year cycle, which prioritising the ones you think that you can make a difference on, certainly in that early period. Some of them may take a little bit longer to work up, and they're probably the ones that you want to then maybe build in for years 2, year 3 onwards. So I think it's focusing on the ones you think you can make an immediate impact, and the high priority ones. Obviously, the scoping papers that can drafted, which we've had a look at this afternoon, talks about bringing some people in, and I suppose it's making those arrangements and to maybe start those invites to get those representatives in, and then that gives you the system to drive those 2 or 3 forwards in the first year. I think you want to make sure don't try to do too much in that first year. It's making sure you can make a difference on the ones that you can do rather than trying to do lots of them. So prioritising your list is important to do first, I think, and maybe taking a vote that you're happy with those 3, and then formally adopting that, and then what are your next steps in terms of who you maybe want to invite maybe to the next meeting or the meeting after.
I think 3 is probably enough. I don't know 4, I don't know how other people feel. 4 might be a bit ambitious.
I think 4, I feel comfortable with 4, but
No,
I'm not.
personally, I think that you said the empty houses, but that empty homes one covered a lot of subjects actually when we got the list out, didn't it? We ended up with affordables and all sorts of stuff in that one. That's going to be a big issue. The whole of that sector is going to be a very big issue. I think that wants to be tackled on its own almost.
And the empty homes element, obviously, there's a lot of work going on, and obviously behind the scenes, so you will get updates through the programmes, through the quarterly reporting you're getting on some of these subject matters anyway. So you will be keeping a review on some of those topics, even if you're not choosing those in that first cycle.
Thank you, John. Councillor Britton.
Yeah, I think I mean, on the assumption that there's members of the public going to be watching the recording of this, touch wood, it would probably be best if I read out the list that we came up with, so that they know what we're talking about, rather than just sort of, the 3 that we sort of, the list, in no particular order, was recycling. Secondly, dentistry, then revenue generation for the council, water quality, agriculture, inward investment, renewables, empty homes and housing, public transport and health inequalities, with a particular focus on elderly. Now that was the list that we came up with, and of that, I think we kind of looked at those 3, but I mean, my personal view about the housing area, I can understand what Councillor Wickham means about, you might be able to do something because we're a housing authority, is that having looked at the amount of activity that's going on around housing and the number of interested parties and everybody putting their shoulder to the wheel to try and get it moving, I just wonder how much additional help we would be by also looking at it. Obviously, as individually, we try and do our bit, but I mean, would diverting the attention of officers away from delivering things on the ground to come in along here be that helpful to somebody who's homeless? You know, that's my thoughts on it. That's all.
Could be some duplication as well. Yeah. Councillor Bushell.
Yeah, I'd like to first give representation. What we're saying is that we need to pick the first 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the highest priority to the local economy is with agriculture, because by 2027, if we don't try and push in a direction to get some sort of subsidies that are actually usable, then a lot of the rural economy will go wrong. If I'm permitted, I do have a short piece representation which includes a lot of facts, just so people might like to absorb them and understand the situation that we're in.
We shouldn't go into
I
detail.
think it is written, it does have numbers in it.
I
I'd like,
sent that out to everybody as well.
okay,
Okay,
that's fine.
It was in the bottom of what I sent out earlier to everyone.
But it's essentially, if we're gonna go quickly into this, DEFRA are not doing a great job at deciding how they're going to sort subsidies. We're expecting by next year that the subsidies will be cut by a further 30%. If we take away subsidies from the average farm and we don't put in a wage for the farmers who generally are working 12, 14, 16-hour days, they would put out, I believe on average, £6,500 per year. That's without taking a wage. So without the subsidies, everything is going to implode. And by 2027, please correct me if I get this wrong, but the common agricultural policy will have ended, which I believe will drop 70% of the current funding. And DEFRA haven't figured it out. I've spoken to a number of farmers and I've spent hours in meetings trying to understand where the problems are. And specifically, the guidance they're getting is changing every day. So I talked to somebody on the Sunday, last Sunday, I think it was, before our meeting, who was talking about the legumes, which is GS4. Okay, so the GS4. So they're pushing an initiative for legumes to be put into fields, which is essentially for their benefit of nitrogen fixing. And on the Sunday, I got told that specifically, they'd like purple clover to be used. By the time that Peter and I met with another one of our councillors who is very well informed and works lobbying DEFRA and a lot of the agricultural sector, he said that the policy had changed now to any legumes. I'm trying to outline how crucial this is going to be.
I don't think it goes to Briggs.
Do not dispute that.
No, it's not one to do. Yeah. You've convinced us now.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, councillor Bushel.
Right. Councillor Jones, did you?
Yeah, just coming back, summarising what Councillor Bishop was pointing out there. The key point from our understanding with the meeting last week is that the majority of farmers are going to lose between 80 and 120% of their profit. And the impact that's going to have of their profit. So exactly and how much profit is currently being made.
Yeah.
That's the way the figure's being given. So there's a huge amount of concern, particularly not just the agricultural sector, but the rural economy. So it really is a priority. That I just wanted to come back on. Thank you for the information that's sent out, particularly in relation to some of the areas that we were looking at. So I didn't continue to pursue a couple of those points. One of those being revenue, and the other one being inward investment, because they're areas which are clearly being looked at in other areas. So I think the focus needs to be on areas where there isn't a focus. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Can I move? Oh, sorry, I just think, I think I mean, as it happened, everybody in the room, all the councillors in the room were at that informal meeting, even though not the whole committee was there, which is serious, it's good. But I'd like to move that even though we've got this list of 10, that we'll keep under review, and we might add things to it or take things off it as we went. That the first three we look at, not in any particular order, dentistry, agriculture and water quality.
Moving that.
Yes.
Councillor Bushel.
I'm happy to second that, but for the benefit of Councillor Clayton, because I understand that he felt dentistry might be a difficult nut to crack. I did look into some of the models which have been adopted in places like Liverpool. So different model, but they've started to offer, I would think South Molton with our Cottage Hospital, bringing dentists into NHS or medical centre buildings. So it increases the value for the community. And I haven't heard of one in North Devon, which has been housed by the NHS. So that could be a fairly easy thing for us to just look into the business models of doing that. I've worked hard to try and keep South Molton's, I don't know what it's called now, Officer Triggs. What do we call the Cottage Hospital now, South Molton? What's the official name?
That one hospital.
Okay.
I think it's.
The community hospital.
Yeah.
And we've pushed hard to keep that open, and it has been a fight, and I'm sure it will come under fire again. If you could say bring other services into the space which it has that's vacant, that could keep that resource open for the community and help the issues around dentistry, where literally nobody can find an NHS dentist, not even for their children. It's really hard to get kids in, but I'm happy to second the council.
Thank you. Councillor Bullock.
No, that's what I was just going to say, was going in plenty enough detail at this particular stage, I think.
So it's proposed and seconded that we prioritise, but keep all of them under review, but prioritise those three areas. Councillor Clinton.
As I said at the start, I don't disagree with whichever we decide to do, but I still maintain it would be beneficial for the workings of this council and the people living here if we concentrated on at least one thing that we do have a specific control over. We don't have control over NHS dentistry. We can try and lobby, we can try and influence, yes. We don't have control on farming. We can try and lobby the government if we want to, and show them the error of their ways in what they did over Brexit, and the fact that all these farmers are now going to lose out because they're going to lose the subsidy because they voted for, many of them voted for back alive. We can try and point that out to them perhaps. But the bottom line is we're not choosing something here that we can actually change if it's those three. And it just seems a bit odd to me that as a policy group, we're choosing things, we cannot actually
States
change.
that
Sorry, I wasn't flapping
we
myself.
can look at
Rapid
issues,
fly.
yeah, issues that, and any issues which may have external issues, which may have an impact on the council or its residents.
Councillor, yeah, I do agree with
So
you,
we,
yeah.
yeah, thank you. Councillor,
Can I say that I understand the point you're making, but I don't agree with you, because I think those are three areas where we can still have impact in terms of awareness around the agricultural bit. You're right, we can't change, we can't go back to 2016 and make ourselves part of Europe again, sadly, but we can inform a lot of farmers who are unaware of, basically, there are alternative options that they can take, but a lot aren't aware. So there's nothing, no communication going on there. So we can have,
There is.
not that we
It's muddy and the rate at which
Yes.
lines are changing, it's hard for people to follow.
And I just think we can have impact on all those points, particularly the water
Yeah.
point. We can look at monitoring.
Right.
We can have a significant impact through monitoring. And on dentistry, again, it's such a big issue. And a lady from Clinton Friday this afternoon, because her son has lost his orthodontist. I think we can have an impact. And she said, I phoned you because I had no one else to phone. So hopefully we can have some kind of impact. I hope.
need to take a look on this, actually. Councillor Bullard, and then,
Well, can I just say that those three subjects are, I agree, but perhaps not the ones being directly influenced, we can lobby and things. But the other thing is, some of the other issues, take for instance, housing and stuff. The district council are currently working hard on lots of issues there. Most members here are new members and have been in the meetings and seen how we work. So that if we concentrate on those three, it gives the new members a chance to perhaps understand what the district council are doing, which you might not be aware of in any detail. And they're doing an awful lot of work in the background that we don't, as new members, you wouldn't actually know. And then it gives you a chance to sit back and see, well, they're doing such and such and such and such on perhaps more issues that we can have influence on. But then give them time to work forward for 12 months and just see just what is coming out of the woodwork that they are actually doing. It's like recycling and things, you know, there's an awful lot of work going on in recycling in the background, which perhaps you're unaware of. And it's the same with the housing issue, with the empty homes and everything. You know, they're doing an awful lot of work. I mean, there's no point in us treading on their toes when they're already doing stuff. So if we deal with those issues, which they're not directly involved in, it gives us a chance to get the mood of how to work things.
Great to move.
thank you. It's been proposed and seconded. We're aware of the opposition. You don't need to repeat it, John. It's the concentrate on the subject. Would you like to just sum up?
Yeah, I mean, the first, particularly, it's only so we can get good at it. Dentistry, agriculture and water quality.
All in favour, please?
Unanimous.
Thank you very much. So from there, then I would suggest that the people in those groups need to get together. I think some of you have already started on filling out your scoping papers. If the members in those three groups got it in writing.
Would you like me to read them out, Chairman?
Yes, please. We've got some. We've got
For the,
your
for the agriculture one, there's councillors Bullard, Jones, Bushell and me. And for water quality, there's councillor Jones, Bishop, Wilson, Spear, actually, and me.
That's me.
And for dentistry, there's councillors Bushell, Hunt and me. Me, actually. I just realised.
Oh. Yes, yes. So,
Is there any opportunity for any other members to go into those groups now that you've narrowed down to your first three? You sort of chose options when you did the chart and the informal,
Yes.
but you might have other members that might want to have an influence in those areas as well.
yeah, there's an option there really to, yes, enlarge those groups, I would have thought.
Chairman,
Anyone who's interested.
can I suggest that when these groups get together, whether in person or on Teams,
Yes,
that they have a chat and then email out to all the members of the committee saying this is what's going on, and is anybody else particularly interested in this? Would they like to do one of the other, areas instead?
They need to, elect a leader or whatever they do, out of their group. They need to-
Sorry, can I suggest that there's a maximum in each group of, say, 4 or 5?
Yes, I was going to
Yeah,
say five,
five.
Otherwise, you'll have everybody.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we have a few missing tonight, but obviously they'll be updated. So is everyone happy with that? Officers, any comments?
So who's going to organise the actual teams meeting as such? Our leaders.
Do you want to pick leaders for each of
I
those groups?
think we need to have a leader for each group. Yeah,
John's in all of them. Wouldn't it be wise that the
maybe you should be.
vice chair just takes a chairing role of each of those groups? For the camera that didn't see that, what he did was.
I'm happy to lead on either water or agriculture. Probably water pollution is why I have a strong area of understanding, and then wants to support me on that one.
I'll do dentistry.
I would like to lead agriculture with Liz as a joint, because I think we bring our own outlooks.
I think lead just means organising the meeting. So, yeah.
I'm a listener to that then, yeah, yes, she's far more practice.
And to arrange a time and date, obviously.
I think we really need to go to the par farm and have, stones, yeah.
It's interested in joining another
Next
group.
nice.
To help my price range then.
We could send that out to our members and just, tell them if they would like to join them as the other groups.
I can get them in.
That's really gives the opportunity
Yeah.
for those that aren't here tonight, Chair, to.
That's right, yeah, right.
But Chair, can I suggest that we have a maximum in each group of 5? Like to avoid unwieldiness.
Yes,
But is it allowable that councillors who are not on policy to join those groups? Because I know that's particularly agriculture. And we have one particular councillor who does a lot of lobbying, and it might be good to ask them if they want to be on the working group, if that's allowed by the constitution.
I'm not sure.
They wouldn't be on the policy for that. So it's not to say they can't have an input to that group, but actually sitting on that group, I would say, would not be.
Are we allowed to invite?
It'd be a
them?
concert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can bring them in for advice and input into the group. They wouldn't be able to sit on the group because obviously not part of policy development.
But we're allowed to invite them along to.
I'm not going to be a consultee or you must want expert advice or whatever you want to
But they
call it.
wouldn't have input here.
They wouldn't have any, I mean, they can attend the meeting as a member of the public.
So we see no problem, why not?
I think it's for context, it's worth just mentioning who you're referring to. So Robin Milton is one of the national authorities on
I
agriculture.
guess
So he writes, he showed us a book that we have to read, and then we found that it was the author of the book. He's also the DEFRA advisor, and he travels all around the world advising on upland farming. And his knowledge on this is, so he's already been assisting a couple of us. So he might actually be one of the experts, but
Is
he
he
might
on
be.
strategy and resources?
No,
I think he is actually.
no, he's not an end.
No, it's not.
Not that that would
He's
make-
already doing all of them.
He's not
That can be on both committees.
But I have mentioned this to Robin.
You can bring them in as an expert witness.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
If he's got time.
Yes, advisory.
Yes, sir. He has got time, he has made time specific.
On each group, have we got, were you able to write that down?
Yeah. So on the
Andrew's the new one.
Can you listen to
on
Kevin?
dentistry, we've got 3, water quality 1, 2, 5, and agriculture 1, 2, 3, 4.
I'll go on dentistry as well. So we've got 2 4s and 5, did you say?
Yeah.
2 4s.
That's fine. I think that's all we can do at this stage, actually. Yeah. Yes, thank you. Do we need to, while we're on the work programme, do we need to look at the rest, the whole document of the work programme? I think we should, while we're doing that. Yeah, do you think, John?
Standard.
So the items that you've got,
They're just the
Chair, are
standard.
the standard quarterly
Yeah.
reporting. I think you've got this evening the performance and financial management report.
Yeah,
You received 3 treasury management reports in the year, so they're built into that cycle. The only separate thing that you receive is the service plans that come in January,
yeah,
which come in advance of setting the budget. And then the February meeting, you have the additional reports then for the budget, annual fees and charges, your treasury management strategy, and then the 10-year capital strategy. So then things went through at the last meeting, that just sets out that cycle of.
yeah.
So
You don't need to actually vote on that.
No, you just note it there.
Just noted, okay, members. Right, thank you for that. We now come back to item 6. I think, if I guess, I'll probably get it wrong. I can say John first, or Tony.
It's going to be Tony, yes.
Tony.
Tony's going to introduce that.
Tony, okay. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. I'm here to present and summarise the quarter 4 and outturn performance report. The recommendations are detailed in your report in 2.1 to 2.6, and these are on page 19. First, I'd like to talk through the revenue position. The revenue budget for 22-23 was approved to full council on 23rd of February 22, just over 13.7 million. As at the 31st of March 23, it's pleasing to report that the final outturn position is a budget surplus of £693,000, which is an overall movement of £674,000 from the last reported forecast at quarter 3. A detailed breakdown showing these movements are shown in Appendix A on pages 23 and 24. The movements can mainly be attributed to adverse variances of benefit subsidy, 116,000, annual market income was down by 40,000, and the Allen appeal cost award provision of 151,000, with favourable variances of temporary accommodation, 99,000, planning fees, 110,000, contribution from the crematorium, 41,000, business rates and pooling income, 395,000, interest received, 436,000, and government grants, 180,000. With inflation still a real issue, we have replenished the budget management to a balance of £815,000. This has been funded from the favourable variances above and a transfer in year from the collection fund reserve. This will provide us with the resilience to ongoing inflationary pressures during 23-24. The financial outturn for Green Lane Shopping Centre for 22-23 produced a net return of 291,000. This included the borrowing costs. This is a positive return for the council and is in line with our original forecasting. The collection fund reserve includes a year-end residue balance of just over £427,000. This is to protect against future volatility. On the revenue budget surplus of the 693,000 mentioned earlier, it is proposed to set aside the following amounts into earmarked reserves. Office technology, 120,000 to fund capital business cases. Repairs fund, 214,000 to fund capital business cases. Budget management, 279,000 to mitigate the 22-23 inflationary pressures. And insurance reserve, 80,000 to mitigate against higher insurance costs throughout the year. As at the 31st of March, the council's external borrowing was £3 million. The time in the future borrowing is dependent on how the authority manages its treasury activities, and due to the borrowing internally during 22-23 resulted in reduction of loan interest of 275,000, which we placed into a treasury management reserve to mitigate against higher interest rates as we move through 23-24. Earmark reserve balances can be found in Appendix B on pages 31 to 33. Now moving on to capital. The capital programme is attached in Appendix D for 22-23. The actual spend for this year was just under 7.6 million, resulting in a carry forward to 23-24 of just over 1.9 million. Including the 22-23 carry forwards, the current capital programmes now stand at 23-24, just over 23 million, 24-25, just over 5.3 million, and 25-26, 95,000. Further variations of just under 5 million are proposed for the 23-24, capital programme and 399,000 to the 24-25 capital programme. The detail of these in 4.4.8 of the report on pages 24 and 25. With these changes, it takes the revised capital programme in total to just under £34 million. The detail making up this total can be found in Appendix E, and these are all detailed on pages 43 to 47. Release of funds for this quarter in the report are in 4.4.13 on pages 25-26. And then moving on to debt management and general debtors, these are detailed in your report in sections 4.5 and 4.6. Appendix F is a new addition to the report, which sets out our 5 programmes and the projects sitting underneath them, with updates on progress to date. Lucy is here and provide a little bit more context and information in relation to this, but before I hand over to Lucy, do any members have any questions on the report so far?
Any questions, members? Councillor Jones.
It's just a quick one. Just in relation to savings being made on salaries. So the target was to make a saving of 250k, but there was a saving made of 476k. Yeah, it's clear that the council is suffering significantly at the moment because we don't necessarily have enough people in place. Was there an intention to extend that saving to that amount, or is that a saving made simply because we couldn't actually recruit those positions, or was it intentional beyond the 250?
So Chair, we always budget for a salary saving. Often there are changes in posts and there's timing between posts obviously leaving and new post officers coming in. And that's generally where the salary saving comes from. There's always that time lag between somebody leaving and someone starting. We do have vacancies and we do have, sometimes there are challenges in recruiting. In some of those areas, we do bring in maybe some temporary staff to cover in the meantime. But obviously there have been challenges in recruitment in some areas. Part of the reason that salary saving was slightly bigger in 22-23 was part of the budget setting in 22-23 members approved additional posts going into the budget, part of the programmes going forward, part of that capacity building. We built in around about another £400,000 worth of new posts into the authority as part of that budget. Not all those posts came forward at the beginning of the year, so the budget built them in from April. The heads of service were building their programmes up, and then some of those posts came to fruition later in the year. So they were new posts, not necessarily replacements of posts that then left. So these new posts coming forward, some of them came in April, some of them came in halfway through the year, some were filled towards the latter end of the year. So the reason the saving is larger in 22-23 is a mixture of the normal turnover in staff, plus this additional time lag of those new posts being brought in to build the capacity up in the organisation.
Just the clarity of reporting, is it appropriate to call it a saving if in fact it's actually just